Harris has been investigating.
Last month, we investigated a mould problem reported by residents at a tower block in Tooting. The council put the mould down to people's lifestyles and a lack of ventilation. But our expert told us the design of the block was playing a big part. We asked you to contact us with your experiences with mould. Cherie Bogle lives in a block in South London and is 7 months pregnant. She says despite treatment, the mould in her flat is getting worse, especially since new windows were fitted.
Everything they've asked me to do, open the windows, trickle vents, even use damp-proof paint about 3 times, it still comes back. You know, so, I mean, I don't know what else to do, really.
Zoe Martin lives on the Lennox estate in Putney with her 2 young daughters. She's one of many who contacted us to say she believes attempts to clean off and treat the mould in her flat haven't worked. She was advised not to use her tumble dryer, which is easy as she doesn't have one.
Just in the winter, when it does get really cold, it's awful. It drips on you, and the smell, and the kids get ill, the breathing problems, everything.
Jeff Charlton has treated mould for 20 years. He believes there needs to be a coordinated approach to the problem by all landlords, as the most popular treatments don't work.
People should stop trying to kill mould or paint over mould. They must remove the mould. There's no alternative. The World Health Organization have stated it must be removed. At
the block where we filmed our original report, more than 20 residents say they're planning a legal challenge against their landlord. London councils say there's no pan-London plan on mould. Most councils have their own advice about how to deal with it on their websites. Sarah Harris, BBC London News.
Still to come this evening. It's where Jerry Springer, the opera, started out. The Arts Centre celebrating 30 years of success. Now, are you feeling the squeeze? With many people's salaries falling and public spending cuts beginning to bite, all this week BBC London will be talking to families trying to cope in difficult economic circumstances. To kick off, we've been talking to mums in Barnet who've got all political to try and save their local children's centre. Carl Mercer reports.
What happens when cuts come close to home? Not too much, really, if you're this age. Plenty, if you're a little older.
Then let it go.
This group of...
Well, we seem to be having a little problem there. We'll try and go back to that package a little bit later. Volunteers helping to run local services may be part of David Cameron's big society, but residents in Kilburn who offered to take over a sports centre are discovering it's not as easy as they'd hoped. Some volunteers claim the local authority is actually trying to frustrate their plans instead of helping them. Sonia Jessup has more.
Limbering up and prepared to fight to save their sports centre. Brent Councils told us we can't film inside, so campaigners have brought their exercise classes out onto the street.
It's the heart of our community, so to take it away would be just devastating, really.
So when local people heard the council wanted to close the centre to save money, they offered to run it themselves. The authority told them it would look at their proposals, but also said it would be stripping the centre of sports equipment. Not quite what campaigners had been expecting.
We're surprised and saddened by their attitude, really. We're trying to save them the revenue deficit that this facility caused them, and to reduce that, we need to have the equipment.
I don't think there's a lot of joined-up thinking going on. It's a bit like handing on a library, so you can have the library, but you don't have the books.
Others are more cynical, saying there's a national problem with councils seeing sports centres as easy targets.
Councils cannot resist the tantalising temptation of turning facilities such as this into housing. More housing for the needy and more money for their coffers.
Well, the council's told me there's no one available for interview, but in a statement it says it's worried about handing over the sports equipment because under health and safety law it might be liable if there are any accidents. It also says there are no plans at this time to redevelop the site.
Campaigners say they don't want to battle with the council. They're hoping everyone can work together to keep the centre open. Sonia Jessup, BBC London News.
It's regarded as one of the most influential theatres in Britain, especially for championing experimental work. Battersea Arts Centre is now 30 years old, and as our arts correspondent Brenda Manis reports, the South London venue continues to create a legacy as a base for groundbreaking theatre.
Maybe you should lock the door.
A terrifying night at the theatre forms part of Battersea Arts Centre's birthday offerings. The magical number 7 by David Rosenberg is amongst the feast of performances offered from a choice of set menus where visitors experience one-on-one encounters with a wide range of artists and performers. It's the company's 30th anniversary and a chance for its artistic directors to dish out some of the best performances that formed part of their legacy as one of the most influential theatres in Britain.
Well, if you think of the Royal Court as a theatre of writers, and you think of the Young Vic as a theatre that supports young directors, we often talk about BAC as a theatre that supports young producers. And the role of the producer here is to nurture independent artists. So BAC has hundreds of artists that it works with every year.
As part of their anniversary celebrations, BAC have commissioned 6 artists to transform former studio spaces into specially designed bedrooms for one-on-one performances during the festival. Kirsty Harris has created a room inspired by Peter Pan.
This is set after all the Lost Boys and Peter have left, and the person who's left in this room is trying to make it a home again, and she does that by collecting the stories of all the people who come through here, so all the audience members will be asked to contribute a memory of a home. The
controversial hit Jerry Springer the Opera was developed at BAC, which has built its reputation as a place for experimentation and collaborating with some of the greatest theatre producers in Britain.
You could talk about an idea in the most abstract sense, and that they would know how to look after you and how to nurture that. They'd know, and if they couldn't help you, which would be very unlikely, they would know. You wouldn't be fobbed off.
Knee-High Theatre's award-winning production, The Red Shoes, runs alongside the One-on-One Festival. Then BAC continues its mission of inventing the future of British theatre. Brenda Manis, BBC London News.
Well, let's go back now to the big squeeze and the families facing challenges in tough economic times. To kick it off, we've been to Barnet to talk to the mums entering the political arena. Carl Mercer has more.
What happens when cuts come close to home? Not too much, really, if you're this age. Plenty, if you're a little older.
Then let it go.
This group of Barnet mums have got political, energised by plans to shut their local children's centre. When the plans were announced, they went to work.
I got it into my head that if there's anything I can do to stop this, I will do it. So I got all the other mums on board and we got a petition. We got everybody to sign a petition. We went to the meetings. I've never been in the council office before in my life. I stood up and I spoke for our local children's centre and actually told them, because I'm sure they don't realise actually, councillors themselves, how much it's used.
The centre won't be closing, which is good news for these little ones. Others in the area, though, will lose their funding. Winning their battle was a surprise, say these mums, but also a sign of what can be achieved.
Me more than anybody gets, we need to make the cuts, and I completely understand we need to do that. But you've got to be quite long-termist with how you make the cuts. You can make a difference, and I think we should all, everybody should get involved. To be honest, we made a difference. So
we kind of know now that maybe if people do come together and we do petitions and just simple things like that, that it might just make a difference. And that can only be a good thing, that people are starting to realise that it does maybe make a difference.
Not everyone, of course, can be a winner in the battle for funding, but this group may just prove that the big society can work, even if it is coming together to fight against the cuts. Carl Mercer, BBC London News.
Well, Carl joins me now. As you said at the end of that piece, Carl, the big society in some way, but not exactly how the Tories would want.
Yeah, it's interesting, whether it's those Barnet mums or the hundreds of thousands of people we saw at the weekend, or the people outside the gym doing their exercises there. It does seem there's a kind of a new generation of people who've been politicised by the savings, the cuts, whatever you want to call them, particularly when they impact directly on themselves. And I think that possibly something the government will be looking at. One, because, yes, they'll be concerned that local communities are rising up against potential cuts, but also there's a political energy there, I think, that the government may look to harness.
So are we sort of saying that the face of politics is changing?
Yeah, I think it is a little, and the government will be looking at it and have said over the weekend, although they wouldn't come on our programme this evening, Francis Mould, the Cabinet Office Minister, saying, look, we appreciate these cuts are going to be difficult, they're going to hurt people, but they believe it's something they clearly have to do to get the deficit down. But they will look at this and they'll say there is a political energy there we can harness, and maybe that is where the big society lies.
OK, well, I look forward to the rest of the week, Carl. Thanks very much. Right, well, let's find out what the weather's up to with Wendy. Wendy, it was quite nice today, wasn't it?
It was another nice day, yes. We got to 16 degrees Celsius across many parts of London today. Now, this might not be good for everyone, but there is going to be some rain for the gardens this week, and it is much needed because in the entire month of March, we would usually expect to get 37 millimetres of rain. Well, what we've actually had, with just 4 days to go in March, is just 7 millimetres of rain. That is a very rough approximate total, but as you can see, it is going to be a very dry month this year of March. Now, we're not going to get any rain just yet. Beautiful evening out there. The sun sets in about half an hour, so a bit of light left in the day yet. And a lot of clear sky as we go through the night. Just bits and pieces of patchy cloud here and there, and perhaps 1 or 2 mist or fog patches developing into the early hours of the morning as well. In many places, temperatures staying between 4 and 7 degrees, but a few prone spots in rural areas might get down to 2 or 3, and it's there we'll see a touch of frost on the grass into tomorrow morning. But for most of us, there will be some sunshine, and certainly the best of it first thing, because second part of the morning it will start to cloud over a little bit. The wind will pick up slightly as well. A few bright spells in the afternoon, but also 1 or 2 showers. Now, I should grab your brolly on the way out tomorrow. These showers won't be for everyone. Don't rely on them to water the garden, but it's best to locate that lost brolly. We haven't used it for some time, have we? And we will need it ahead of Wednesday, because that's when we will have an Atlantic front coming through. Now, as it crosses the country, a lot of the rain will be sort of easing off, but there could be 1 or 2 bursts throughout Wednesday afternoon, which will be a bit heavier. And then we go through to Thursday, still rather unsettled, and you'll start to feel it becoming more breezy as well, and that's the Atlantic weather coming through. A little bit of a dry end to the week and feeling mild with those southwesterly winds.
Wendy, thank you very much. Tonight's main news headlines now, and rebel forces in Libya are retaking many of the towns along the coast and are now around 60 miles from Colonel Gaddafi's birthplace, aided by coalition airstrikes on munitions dumps. A taxi driver has been remanded in custody by magistrates in Swindon, accused of the murder of Sean O'Callaghan, who disappeared after leaving a nightclub in the town 9 days ago. And businesses in the West End are calling for any future protests to be routed away from shopping areas in central London. They want event organisers to be held financially responsible for any damage caused. Well, that's it. I'll be back later during the 10 o'clock news, but for now, from everyone on the team, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Joining Alex and Matt next on The One Show, it's documentary maker Louis Theroux.
Books on the BBC. Free your imagination.
Tonight on Bang, Dallas goes supersonic and meets the team behind a 1,000-mile-per-hour car. And Jem is making glue out of the strangest stuff. That's Bang Goes a Theory, revealing your world in half an hour.